accidents can be traumatizing, and they're especially awful if you need to file a personal injury claim. You might be waiting, asking yourself, how long will my case take?
It's a good question. Well, Andy Crouppen of Brown and Crouppen explains to us.
Andy Crouppen, great to see you again.
Likewise.
So how long does a personal injury lawsuit take?
Well, so I can give you a generalization, but the two questions that everybody wants to know and are really the most difficult to answer in the beginning are, how much is my case worth and how long is it going to take? And the problem is there are so many variables that you just can't know those two items up front. So, but what I can tell you is kind of the phases that a personal injury lawsuit goes through. So a lot of it does not necessarily have to do with the complexity, but rather one of the biggest things up front, at least, is what are your injuries? How serious are they? And more importantly, how long and how much treatment will you require? You're not going to be able to even begin to negotiate with an insurance company until the person is done treating. So that's upfront one of the major, I don't want to call it a delay, but it's just something that adds to the timeline. Now, as claims get more complex, they can also add to the timeline. So things like premise liability cases where liability can sometimes be a bit questionable. And so it takes a lot of effort and sometimes experts to work up the liability and prove that indeed the defendant was liable. The number of people involved can add to the timeline. If the liability is contested, so if you're sitting at a red light and you're hit by a drunk driver, it's pretty clear who's at fault there. However, sometimes these intersectional collisions aren't quite as clear cut. Medical treatment, medical history, if you have pre-existing conditions that need to be delved into, those types of things can add to the length of time a personal injury lawsuit can take. I would say on average, though, depending on the severity of the injuries, somewhere between 12 and 18 months is probably a good timeline, unless there are just catastrophic injuries. And then oftentimes it's a bit longer than that.
Andy Crouppen, thanks so much.
Thank you.
If you need legal advice, give the experts at Brown and Crouppen a call at 314-222-2222 or visit their website, getbc.com. You should also be sure to check out their YouTube page.